Am I here now? Am I here now? It says I'm live. Thank goodness. All right, guys, we are here. I am gonna cut the bullshit and get right into it. Um, Malcolm, this reading is for you as much as it is for me. Uh, Malcolm has recently acquired a copy of The Visiting Privilege by Joy Williams. It's a wonderful collection that contains basically most. There's a few missing stories, and it's why I would encourage anybody who gets into Joy Williams to pick up the individual story volumes. Just to get what's left out. But this is a tremendous bang for your buck. It contains most of the stories contained in her first three collections: Taking Care, Escaped, and Honored Guest. They're all great collections. Um, I will be actually reading them from the standalone volume, Taking Care, which was her first collection. Um, just because the font's a little bit bigger in there and under these lighting conditions, and for the purposes of reading live, like a bigger font size is kind of preferred. But yeah, The Visiting Privilege. Um, this was my entry point for Joy Williams, and I picked it up because it was at Half Price Books, and I was looking at the table of contents and seeing like, oh, so this is a lot of stories. So I just picked it up, and holy moly, really went down the rabbit hole with Joy Williams, and it's been a very pleasurable rabbit hole to go down. Um, she's just such an oddity. She's so strange and funny and dark and surreal, and just the writing itself is always it's just been beautiful forever, and she's only gotten better somehow, and that's insane, because what I'm going to be reading from tonight is from her first collection, and it's just, I mean, right off the bat, it's amazing fiction. For anybody following along, I know Malcolm probably already knows where these stories are. And if you got The Visiting Privilege and want to follow along, the first one I'm going to be reading is the first story in there. It's called Taking Care. Oddly, it is the last story in the collection in the standalone book. That's the other thing. The structure of the stories is completely changed in The Visiting Privilege, and it's really interesting comparing that sequence, the way it's sequenced there, to the standalones. Sorry, I'm thirsty. I'm drinking sparkling water and Irish breakfast tea. Oh, sorry, Malcolm. You're very welcome, Malcolm. And this goes for you too, Kyle, and anybody else watching. If you want to hear something read aloud, and I have it, I'll read it aloud. I do take requests. Most of the time, I'm just bumbling around, picking and choosing from things that I really, really love. But I have a whole room full of books I really, really love. It doesn't just have to be short fiction. um, Chapter 35 of Angel. I'll do it. I'll do a chapter from Angel on here for sure, Kyle. And I will do chapter 35 when I get there. I need to see where I am. It's probably going to be an embarrassingly low number. I'm at chapter 28. But when I get to chapter 35, I'll read it for you here, Kyle. I promise. God, I've been reading him aloud just anyway while I've been reading him, and it's just the prose, man. Holy mackerel. Every time it's stupid. It's like the only thing I can really compare to that is um, Proust was a little bit like that, where I just pick it up and it's just like nonchalantly just kind of the most beautiful thing you've ever read. And then yeah, it's kind of the same thing with Wolf. You just like pick it up and start reading it, and it's just like at any point, and it's just like, damn, damn. It's ridiculous. Miss Macintosh, My Darling by Marguerite Young, I would kind of compare to that too. Like you can just like literally open it to any page, and it's just like what the just the tone of it is so high. I don't know. Anyway, let's start in. I'm going to read Taking Care by Joy Williams. This story is very near and dear to me, in particular, as a husband to a disabled spouse. So this story has only grown in relevance for me over time. Yeah. Anyone just joining, this is Taking Care by Joy Williams. Thank you all very much for being here. Jones, the preacher, has been in love all his life. He is baffled by this because, as far as he can see, it has never helped anyone, even when they have acknowledged it, which is not often. Jones's love is much too apparent and arouses neglect. He is like an animal in a traveling show who, through some aberration, wears a vital organ outside the skin, awkward and unfortunate, something that shouldn't be seen, certainly something that shouldn't be watched working. Now he sits on a bed beside his wife in the self-care unit of a hospital 15 miles from their home. She has been committed here for tests. She is so weak, so tired. There is something wrong with her blood. Her arms are covered with bruises where they have gone into the veins. Her hip, too, is blue and swollen where they have drawn out samples of bone marrow. All of this is frightening. The doctors are severe and wise, answering Jones's questions in a way that makes him feel hopelessly deaf. They have told him that there really is no such thing as a disease of the blood, for the blood is not a living tissue, but a passive vehicle for the transportation of food, oxygen, and waste. They have told him that abnormalities in the blood corpuscles, which his wife seems to have, must be regarded as symptoms of disease elsewhere in the body. They have shown him, upon request, slides and charts of normal and pathological blood cells, which look to Jones like canapes. They speak, for he insists, of leukocytosis, myelocytes, and megaloblasts. None of this takes into account the love he has for his wife. Jones sits beside her in this dim, pleasant room, wearing a gray suit and his clerical collar, for when he leaves her, he must visit other parishioners who are patients here. This part of the hospital is like a motel. One may wear one's regular clothes. The rooms have ice buckets, rugs, and colorful bedspreads. How he wishes that they were traveling and staying overnight, this night, in a motel. A nurse comes in with a tiny paper cup full of pills. There are 3 pills, or rather capsules, and they are not for his wife, but for her blood. The cup is the smallest of its type that Jones has ever seen. All perspective, all sense of time and scale seem abandoned in this hospital. For example, when Jones turns to kiss his wife's hair, he nicks the air instead. Jones and his wife have one child, a daughter, who, in turn, has a single child, a girl, born half a year ago. Wow, born 1/2 year ago. Jones's daughter has fallen in with the stars and is using the heavens, as Jones would be the first to admit, more than he ever has. It has, however, brought her only grief and confusion. She has left her husband and brought the baby to Jones. She has also given him her dog. She is going to Mexico, where soon, in the mountains, she will have a nervous breakdown. Jones does not know this, but his daughter has seen it in the stars and is going out to meet it. Jones quickly agrees to care for both the baby and the dog, as this seems to be the only thing his daughter needs from him. The day of the baby's birth is secondary to the position of the planets and the terms of houses, quadrants, and gradients. Her symbol is a bareback rider. To Jones, this is a graceful thought. It signifies audacity. It also means luck. Jones slips a $20 bill in the pocket of his daughter's suitcase and drives her to the airport. The plane taxis down the runway, and Jones waves, holding all their luck in his arms. One afternoon, Jones had come home and found his wife sitting in the garden, weeping. She had been transplanting flowers, putting them in pots before the first frost came. There was dirt on her forehead and around her mouth. Her light clothes felt so heavy. Their weight made her body ache. Each breath was a stone she had to swallow. She cried and cried in the weak autumn sunshine. Jones could see the veins throbbing in her neck. "I'm dying," she said. "It's taking me months to die." But after he had brought her inside, she insisted that she felt better and made them both a cup of tea while Jones potted the rest of the plants and carried them down cellar. She lay on the sofa and Jones sat beside her. They walked quietly with one another. Indeed, they were almost whispering, as though they were in a public place surrounded by strangers instead of in their own house with no one present but themselves. "It's the season," Jones said. "In fall, everything slows down, retreats. I'm feeling tired myself. We need iron. I'll go to the druggist right now and buy some iron tablets." His wife agreed. She wanted to go with him for the ride. Together they ride through the towns for miles and miles, even into the next state. She does not want to stop driving. They buy sandwiches and milkshakes and eat in the car. Jones drives. They have to buy more gasoline. His wife sits close to him, her eyes closed, her head tipped back against the seat. He can see the veins beating on in her neck. Somewhere there is a dreadful sound, almost audible. "First, I thought it was my imagination," his wife said. "I couldn't sleep. All night I would stay awake, dreaming. But it's not in my head. It's in my ears, my eyes. They ache. Everything. My tongue, my hair, the tips of my fingers are dead." Jones pressed her cold hand to his lips. He thinks of something mad and loving better than he, running out of control deeply in the darkness of his wife. "Just don't make me go to the hospital," she pleaded. Of course she will go there. The moment has already occurred. Jones is writing to his daughter. He received a brief letter from her this morning, telling him where she could be reached. The foreign postmark was so large that it almost obliterated Jones's address. She did not mention earlier her mother or the baby, which makes Jones feel peculiar. His life seems increate. Uh-oh. Oh, it's just the lighting adjusting. I'm sorry, I thought I dropped out. His life seems increate as his God's life, perhaps even imaginary. His daughter tells him about the town in which she lives. She does not plan to stay there long. She wants to travel. She will find out exactly what she wants to do, and then she will come home again. The town is poor but interesting, and there are many Americans there her own age. There is a zoo right on the beach. Almost all the towns, no matter how small, have little zoos. There are primarily eagles and hawks in the cages. And what can Jones reply to that? He writes, "Everything is fine here. We are burning wood from the old apple tree in the fireplace, and it smells wonderful. Has the baby had her full series of polio shots? Take care." Jones uses this expression constantly, usually in totally unwarranted situations, as when he purchases pipe cleaners or drives through toll booths. Distracted, Jones writes off the edge of the paper and onto the blotter. He must begin again. He will mail this on the way to the hospital. They have been taking x-rays for 3 days now, but the pictures are cloudy. They cannot read them. His wife is now in a real sick bed with high metal sides. He sits with her while she eats her dinner. She asks him to take her good nightgown home and wash it with a bar of ivory. They won't let her do anything now, not even wash out a few things. You must take care. Jones is driving down a country road. It is the first snowfall of the season, and he wants to show it to the baby who rides beside him in a small cushioned car seat, all her own. Her head is almost on a level with his, and she looks earnestly at the landscape, sometimes smiling. They follow the road that winds tightly between fields and deep pine woods. Everything is white and clean. It has been snowing all afternoon and is doing so still, but very, very lightly. Fat snowflakes fall solitary against the windshield. Sometimes the baby reaches out for them. Sometimes she gives a brief kick and cry of joy. They have done their errands. Jones has bought milk and groceries and 2 yellow roses which lie wrapped in tissue and newspaper in the trunk in the cold. He must buy 2 on Saturday as the florist is closed on Sunday. He does not like to do this, but there is no alternative. The roses do not keep well. Tonight he will give one to his wife. The other he will pack in sugar water and store in the refrigerator. He can only hope that the bud will remain tight until Sunday when he brings it into the terrible heat of the hospital. The baby rocks against the straps of her small carrier. Her lips are pursed as she watches intently the fields, the gray stalks of crops growing out of the snow, the trees. She is warmly dressed and she wears a knitted orange cap. The cap is 23 years old, the age of her mother. Jones found it just the other day. It has faded almost to pink on one side. At one time, it must have been stored in the sun. Jones, driving, feels almost gay. The snow is so beautiful. Everything is white. Jones is an educated man. He has read Melville, who says that white is the colorless all color of atheism from which we shrink. Jones does not believe this. He sees a holiness in snow, a promise. He hopes that his wife will know that it is snowing even though she is separated from the window by a curtain. Jones sees something moving across the snow, a part of the snow itself, running. Although he is going slowly, he takes his foot completely off the accelerator. "Look, darling, a snowshoe rabbit." At the sound of his voice, the baby stretches open her mouth and narrows her eyes in soundless glee. The hair is splendid, so fast. It flows around invisible obstructions, something out of a kind dream. It flies across the ditch, its paws like paddles, faintly yellow, the color of raw wood. "Look, sweet," cries Jones, "how big he is." But suddenly the hair is curved and falling, round as a ball, its feet and head tucked closely against its body. It strikes the road and skids upside down for several yards. The car passes around it, avoids it. Jones brakes and stops, amazed. He opens the door and trots back to the animal. The baby twists about in her seat as well as she can and peers after him. It is, it is as though the animal had never been alive at all. Its head is broken in several places. Jones bends to touch its fur, but straightens again, not doing so. A man emerges from the woods, swinging a shotgun. He nods at Jones and picks the hare up by the ears. As he walks away, the hare's legs rub across the ground. There are small crystal stains on the snow. Jones returns to the car. He wants to apologize, but he does not know to whom or for what. His life has been devoted to apologetics. It is his profession. He is concerned with both justification and remorse. He has always acted rightly, but nothing has ever come of it. He gets in the car, starts the engine. "Oh, sweet," he says to the baby. She smiles at him, exposing her tooth. At home that night, after the baby's supper, Jones reads a story to her. She is asleep, panting in her sleep. But Jones tells her the story of Al-Barak, the milk-white steed of Muhammad, who could stride out of the sight of mankind with a single step. Jones sorts through a collection of records, none of which have been opened. They are still wrapped in cellophane. The jacket designs are subdued, epic. Names, instruments, and orchestras are mentioned confidently. He would like to agree with their importance, for he knows that they have worth, but he is not familiar with the references. His daughter his daughter brought these records with her. They had been given to her by an older man, a professor she had been having an affair with. Naturally, this pains Jones. His daughter speaks about the men she has been involved with but no longer cares about. Where did these men come from? Where were they waiting, and why have they gone? Jones remembers his daughter when she was a little girl, helping him rake leaves. What can he say? For years on April Fool's Day, she would take tobacco out of his humidor and fill it with corn flakes. Jones is full of remorse and astonishment. When he saw his daughter only a few weeks ago, she was thin and nervous. She had torn out almost all her eyebrows with her fingers from this nervousness, and her lashes. The roots of her eyes were white, like the bulbs of flowers. Her fingernails were crudely bitten, some bleeding below the quick. She was tough and remote, wanting only to go on a trip for which she had a ticket. What can he do? He seeks her in the face of the baby, but she is not there. All is being both continued and resumed, but the dream is different. The dream cannot be revived. Jones breaks into one of the albums, blows the dust from the needle, plays a record. Outside it is dark. The parsonage is remote, and the only buildings nearby are barns. The river cannot be seen. The music is Bruckner's Te Deum. Very nice, dedicated to God. He plays the other side. A woman, Kathleen Ferrier, is singing in German. Jones cannot understand the words, but the music stuns him. Kindertotenlieder. It is devastating. In college, he had studied only scientific German, the vocabulary of submarines, dirigibles, and steam engines. Jones plays the record again and again, searching for his old grammar. At last he finds it. The wings of insects are between some of the pages. There are notes in pencil, written in his own young hand. Render. A. Was the teacher satisfied with you today? B. No, he was not. My essay was good, but it was not copied well. C. I am sorry you were not industrious this time, for you generally are. These lessons are neither of life or death. Why was he instructed in them? In the hospital, his wife waits to be translated, no longer a woman, the woman whom he loves, but a situation. Her blood moves mysteriously as constellations. She is under scrutiny and attack, and she has abandoned Jones. She is a swimmer waiting to get on with the drowning. Jones is on the shore. In Mexico, his daughter walks along the beach with two men. She is acting out a play that has become her life. Jones is on the mountain top. The baby cries, and Jones takes her from the crib to change her. The dog paws the door. Jones lets him out. He settles down with the baby and listens to the record. He still cannot make out many of the words. The baby wiggles restlessly on his lap. Her eyes are a foal's eyes, navy blue. She has grown in a few weeks to expect everything from Jones. He props her on one edge of the couch and goes to her small toy box where he keeps a bear, a few rattles and balls. On the way, he opens the door and the dog immediately enters. His heavy coat is cold, fragrant with ice. He noses the baby, and she squeals. I've read this before, and I did this last time, and I've made no effort to improve my German pronunciation, so I'm just going to not read these two lines of the German opera being referenced here. I'm just going to spare anybody that. I did the same thing when I read Proust, and there was like a section in French that I had to read, and I'd rather not butcher it, but okay. I'll give it a try, but it's gonna blow everything. It's like oft denk ich, sie sind nur ausgegangen, bald werden sie wieder nach Hause gelangen. That's the best I can do. I'm really sorry. Jones selects a bright ball and pushes it gently in her direction. Thankfully, there's no more German. It is Sunday morning, and Jones is in the pulpit. The church is very old, but the walls of the sanctuary have recently been painted a pale blue. In the cemetery adjoining, some of the graves are 300 years old. It has become a historical landmark, and no one has been buried there since World War I. There is a new place, not far away, which the families now use. Plots are marked not with stones, but with small tablets, and immediately after any burial, workmen roll grassed sod over the new graves so that there is no blemish on the grounds, not even for a little while. Present for today's service are 78 adults, 11 children, and the junior choir. Jones counts them as the offertory is received. The church rolls say that there are 350 members, but as far as Jones can see, everyone is here today. This is the day he baptizes the baby. He has made arrangements with one of the ladies to hold her and bring her up to the font at the end of the first hymn. The baby looks charming in a lacy white dress. Jones has combed her fine hair carefully, slicking it in a curl with water, but now it has dried and it sticks up awkwardly like the crest of a kingfisher. Jones bought the dress in Mammoth Mart, an enormous store which has a large elephant dressed in overalls dancing on the roof. He feels foolish at buying it there, but he had gone to several stores, and that is where he saw the prettiest dress. He blesses the baby with water from the silver bowl. He says, "We are saved not because we are worthy. We are saved because we are loved." It is a brief ceremony. The baby, looking curiously at Jones, is taken out to the nursery. Jones begins his sermon. He can't remember when he wrote it, but here it is, typed in front of him. There is nothing wrong in what one does, but there is something wrong in what one becomes. He finds this questionable, but goes on speaking. He has been preaching for 34 years. He is gaunt with belief. But his wife has a red cell count of only 2.3 millions. It is not enough. She is not getting enough oxygen. Jones is giving his sermon. Somewhere he has lost what he was looking for. He must have known once, surely. The congregation sways like the wings of a ray in water. It is Sunday, and for patients, it is a holiday. The doctors don't visit. There are no tests or diagnoses. Jones would like to leave, to walk down the aisle and out into the winter where he would read his words into the ground. Why can't he remember his life? He finishes, sits down, stands up to present communion. Tiny cubes of bread lie in a slumped pyramid. They are offered and received. Jones takes his morsel, hacked earlier from a sliced, enriched loaf with his own hand. It is so dry, almost wicked. The very thought now sickens him. He chews it over and over again, but it lies unconsumed like a mussel in his mouth. Jones is waiting in the lobby for the results of his wife's operation. Has there ever been a time before dread? He would be grateful even to have dread back, but it has been lost for a long time in rapid possibility, probability, and fact. The baby sits on his knees and plays with his tie. She woke very early this morning for her orange juice and then gravely, immediately spit it all up. She seems fine now, however, her fingers exploring Jones's tie. Whenever he looks at her, she gives him a dazzling smile. He has spent most of the day fiercely cleaning the house, changing the bed sheets and the pages of the many calendars that hang in the rooms, things he should have done a week ago. He has dusted and vacuumed and pressed all his shirts. He has laundered all the baby's clothes, soft small sacks and gowns and sleepers which froze in his hands the moment he stepped outside. And now he is waiting and watching his wristwatch. The tumor is precisely this size, they tell him, the size of his clock's face. Jones has the baby on his lap, and he is feeding her. The evening meal is lengthy and complex. First, he must give her vitamins, then, because she has a cold, a dropper of liquid aspirin. This is followed by a bottle of milk, 8 ounces, and a portion of strained vegetables. He gives her a rest now so that the food can settle. On his hip, she rides through the rooms of the huge house as Jones turns lights off and on. He comes back to the table and gives her a little more milk, a half jar of strained chicken, and a few spoonfuls of dessert, usually cobbler, buckle, or pudding. The baby enjoys all equally. She is good. She eats rapidly and neatly. Sometimes she grasps the spoon, turns it around, and thrusts the wrong end into her mouth. Of course, there is nothing that cannot be done incorrectly. Jones adores the baby. He sniffs her warm head. Her birth is a deep error, an abstraction. Born in wedlock, but out of love. He puts her in the playpen and tends to the dog. He fills one dish with water and one with horse meat. He rinses out the empty can before putting it in the waste basket. The dog eats with great civility. He eats a little meat and then takes some water, then meat, then water. When the dog has finished, the dishes are as clean as though they'd been washed. Jones now thinks about his own dinner. He opens the refrigerator. The ladies of the church have brought brownies, venison, cheese, and applesauce. There are turkey pies, pork chops, steak, haddock, and sausage patties. A brilliant light exposes all this food. There is so much of it. It must be used. A crust has formed around the punctures in a can of Pet. There is a clear bag of chicken livers stapled shut. There are large brown eggs in a bowl. Jones stares unhappily at the beads of moisture on cartons and bottles, at the pearls of fat on the cold cooked stew. He sits down. The room is full of lamps and cords. He thinks of his wife, her breathing body deranged in tubes, and begins to shake. All objects here are perplexed by such grief. Now it is almost Christmas, and Jones is walking down by the river around an abandoned house. The dog wades heavily through the snow, biting it. There are petals of ice on the tree limbs, and when Jones lingers under them, the baby puts out her hand and her mouth starts working because she would like to have it. The ice, the branch, everything. His wife will be coming home in a few days, in time for Christmas. Jones has already put up the tree and brought the ornaments down from the attic. He will not trim it until she comes home. He wants very much to make a fine occasion out of opening the boxes of old decorations. The two of them have always enjoyed this greatly in the past. Jones will doubtlessly drop and smash a bauble, for he does every year. He tramps through the snow with his small Voyager. She dangles on a shoulder sling, her legs wedged around his hip. They regard the rotting house seriously. Once it was a doctor's home and offices, but long before Jones's time, the doctor, who was very respected, had been driven away because a town girl accused him of fathering her child. The story goes that all the doctor said was, "Is that so?" The story goes, oh wait, yeah. This incensed the town and the girl's parents, who insisted that he take the child as soon as it was born. He did, and he cared for the child very well, even though his practice was ruined and no one had anything to do with him. A year later, the girl told the truth, that the actual father was a young college boy whom she was now going to marry. They wanted the child back, and the doctor willingly returned the infant to them. Of course, it is a very old, important story. Jones has always appreciated it, but now he is annoyed at the man's passivity. His wife's sickness has changed everything for Jones. He will continue to accept that he will no longer surrender. Surely things are different for Jones now. For insurance purposes, Jones's wife is brought out to the car in a wheelchair. She is thin and beautiful. Jones is grateful and confused. He has a mad wish to tip the orderly. Have so many years really passed? Is this not his wife, his love, fresh from giving birth? Isn't everything about to begin? In Mexico, his daughter wanders disinterestedly through a jewelry shop where she picks up a small silver egg. It opens on a hinge, and inside are two figures, a bride and groom. Jones puts the baby in his wife's arms. At first, the baby is alarmed because she cannot remember this person very well, and she reaches for Jones, whimpering. But soon she is soothed by his wife's soft voice, and she falls asleep in her arms as they drive. Jones has readied everything carefully for his wife's homecoming. The house is clean and orderly. For days, he has restricted himself to only one part of the house so that his clutter will be minimal. Jones helps his wife up the steps to the door. Together, they enter the shining rooms. Love that story. Take care, Kyle, and thanks for being here, man. You okay, darling? Mm. Okay. Let me know if you need anything, loser. I'll be done in a little bit. Oh, that's interesting. Malcolm, you know what? I've never sat down and like actually compared the two versions of these texts to each other, and I never really thought about edits she had made. I need to go back now and reread the visiting privilege versions. It seems like that's really interesting. That makes me even more uh, intrigued. Now I'm going to have to compare the standalone collection versions of the text to the visiting privilege and see what's changed. In my defense, I read the visiting privilege ones versions a long time ago. Not like a super long time ago, but I think it was 2021 or 2020 or shoot, I can't remember now when I was reading those for the first time. And then I got the standalone versions, and when I read the standalone texts, and it's weird, stuff like that usually kind of jumps out at me. Maybe it had just been sufficiently long between me reading the visiting privilege and then the standalone collections that it wasn't jumping out at me. Um, but yeah, I guess keep your eye out for differences in version with this story too. I did make up my mind. I will save Malcolm. I will save winter chemistry for another time. It's a little bit of a longer one. Um, I really love that story, but Taking Care is a little bit of a longer one too in the grand scheme of things. This one is a little bit shorter and pretty surreal and kind of sad, uh, and I like it a lot. And we have a not a German Shepherd, but we have a Shepherd dog, a Malinois. So uh, another one. And I don't think it's any coincidence. There's a German Shepherd on the front of the visiting privilege. So, anyhow, in Malcolm, in your version of the text, just in case you didn't mark them earlier, the shepherd is on 56. And in this version, it is on. Where is it? God dang it, I lost it. I should have marked it. I got cocky. Where's Shepherd? Woods. That's a creepy one. Shepherd. There we go. It's on 69. All right. Let me take another sip of tea and another sip of water, and then I'll get to reading Shepherd. This is Shepherd by Joy Williams. It had been 3 weeks since the girl's German Shepherd had died. He had drowned. The girl couldn't get over it. She sat on the porch of her boyfriend's beach house and looked at the water. It was not the same water. The house was on the Gulf of Mexico. The shepherd had drowned in the bay. The girl's boyfriend had bought his house just the week before. It had been purchased, furnished with mismatched plates and glasses, several large oak beds, an assortment of green wicker furniture, and an Art Deco ice bucket with its handles in the shape of penguins. The girl had a house of her own on the broad sea-walled bay. The house had big windows overlooking shaggy bougainvillea bushes. There were hardly any studs in the frame, and the whole house had shaken when the dog ran through it. The girl's boyfriend's last name was Chester, and everyone called him that. He was in his mid-30s. The girl realized she was no kid herself. She was 5 years younger than he was. Chester favored trousers with legs of different colors and wore sunglasses the color of champagne bottles. He wore them day and night like a blind man. Chester had a catamaran. He loved to cook. It's just another way to cook eggs, he'd say, as he produced staggeringly delicious blintzes on Sunday morning. Chester had a writing dentist who had serviced the weathermen in college. Chester had wide shoulders, great hands, and one broken marriage on which he didn't owe a dime. You have fallen into the pie, the girl's friends told her. 3 days before the shepherd had drowned, Chester had asked the girl to marry him. They had known each other almost a year. I love you, he said. Let's get married. They had taken a quaalude and gone to bed. That had been 3 weeks and 3 days ago. They were going to be married in 4 days. Time is breath, the girl thought. The girl sat on a rusted glider with faded cushions and drank bourbon from a glass printed with orange suns and pink flamingos. She wore skimpy flowered shorts and a black t-shirt. Tears ran down her face. The shepherd was brown and black with a blunt, fabulous face. He had a famous trick. When the girl said, "Do you love me?" he would leap up, all fours, into her arms, and he was light, so light, containing his great weight deep within himself, like a dream of weight. The shepherd had been 5 years old when he drowned. The girl had had him since he was 2 months old. She had bought him from a breeder in Miami, a man who had once been a priest. The girl's shepherd came from a litter of 5 with excellent bloodlines. The mother was graceful and friendly, the father more solemn and alert. The breeder, who had once been a priest, made the girl spend several minutes alone with each puppy and asked her a great many questions about herself. The girl didn't know what she was doing actually. She had never thought about herself much. When she had finally selected her puppy, she sat in the kitchen with the breeder and drank a Pepsi. The puppy stumbled around her feet, nibbling at the laces of her sneakers. The breeder smoked and talked to the girl with a great deal of assurance. The girl had been quite in awe of him. He said, "We are all asleep and dreaming, you know. If we could ever actually comprehend our true position, we would not be able to bear it. We would have to find a way out." The girl nodded and sipped her warm Pepsi. She was embarrassed. People would sometimes speak to her in this way, in this intimate, alarming way, as though she were passionate or thoughtful or well-read. The puppy smelled wonderful. She picked him up and held him. We deceive ourselves. All we do is dream. Good dreams, bad dreams. The ways that others see us is our life, the girl said. Yes, the breeder exclaimed. The girl sat slowly moving on the glider. She imagined herself standing, laughing, younger and much nicer, the shepherd leaping into her arms. Her head buzzed and rustled. The bourbon bobbed around the flamingo's lowered head on the gaudy glass. She stood up and walked from one end of the porch to the other. The shepherd's drowned weight in her arms had been a terrible thing, a terrible thing. She and Chester were both dressed rather elaborately because they had just returned from a dinner with 2 friends, a stockbroker and his girlfriend, an art dealer. The art dealer was very thin and very blonde. There were fine blonde hairs on her face. The small restaurant where they ate appeared much larger than it was by its use of mirrored walls. The girl watched the 4 of them eating and drinking in the mirrors. The stockbroker spoke of money, of what he could do for his friends. I love my work, he said. The art I handle, his girlfriend said, is intended as a stimulus for discussion. In no way is it to be taken as an aesthetic product. As the evening wore on, the girlfriend became quite drunk. She had a large repertoire of light bulb jokes. The girl had asked the woman for her untouched steak tornadoes. The waiter had wrapped it for her in aluminum foil, the foil twisted into the shape of a swan. The girl remembered carrying the meat into the house for the shepherd and seeing the torn window screen. She remembered feeling the stillness in her house as it flowed into her eyes. The girl looked at the Gulf. It was a dazzling day with no surf. The beach was deserted. The serious tanners were in tanning parlors, bronzing evenly beneath sun lamps, saving time. The girl wished the moment were still to come, that she were there then, waiting, her empty arms outstretched, saying, "Do you love me?" Dogs hear sounds that we cannot, thought the girl. Dogs hear callings. Chester had dug a deep square hole beneath the largest of the bougainvillea bushes, and the girl had laid her dog down into it. Their pale clothes became dirty from the drowned dog's coat. The girl had thrown her dress away. Chester had sent his suit to the dry cleaners. Chester liked the dog, but it was the girl's dog. A dog can only belong to one person. When Chester and the girl made love in her house, or when the girl was out for the evening, she kept the shepherd inside, closed up on a small porch with high screened windows. He had taken to leaping out of his pen, a clearing enclosed with cyclone fencing and equipped with old tires. It was supposed to be his playground, his exercise area, and keep away boredom and loneliness when the girl was not with him. It was a tall fence, but the shepherd had found a way over it. He had escaped, again and again, so the girl had begun locking him up in the small porch room. The girl had never witnessed his escape from either of these places, but she imagined him leaping, gathering himself and plunging upward. He could leap so high. There was such lightness in him, such faith in the leaping. On the beach at Chester's, the waves glittered so with light. The girl could not bear to look at them. She finished the bourbon, took the empty glass to the kitchen, and put it in the sink. When the girl and the shepherd had first begun their life together, they had lived around mile 47 in the Florida Keys. The girl worked in a small marine laboratory there. Her life was purely her own and the dog's. Life seemed slow and joyous, and remembering those days, the girl felt that she had been on the brink of something extraordinary. She remembered the shepherd, his exuberance, energy, dignity. She remembered the shepherd and remembered being herself good. She had been capable of living another life then. She lived aware of happiness. The girl pushed her hands through her hair. The gulf seemed to stick in her throat. There had been an abundance of holy things then. Once the world had been promising, but there had been a disappearance of holy things. A friend of Chester's had suggested hypnotism. He had been quite enthusiastic about it. The girl would have a few sessions with this hypnotist that he knew, and she would forget the dog. Not forget exactly, rather, certain connections would not be made. The girl would no longer recall the dog in the context of her grief. The hypnotist had had great success with smokers. Tonight they were going to have dinner with this man and his wife. The girl couldn't bear the thought of it. They would talk and talk. They would talk about real estate and hypnotism and Coke and Cancun. All of Chester's friends loved Cancun. Tonight, they would go to a restaurant which had recently become notorious when an elderly woman had died from burns received when the Cherries Jubilee she was being served set fire to her dress. They would all order flaming desserts. They would go dancing afterwards. Sorry. Animals are closer to God than we are, the girl thought, but they are lost to him. Her arms felt heavy. The sun was huge, moving ponderously toward the horizon. People were gathering on the beach to watch it go down. They were playing their radios. When the sun touched the horizon, it took 3 minutes before it disappeared. An animal can live for 3 minutes without air. It had taken the shepherd 3 minutes to die after however long he had been swimming in the deep water off the smooth seawall. The girl remembered walking into the house with the meat wrapped in the foil in the shape of a swan and seeing the broken screen. The house was full of mosquitoes. Chester put some soft ice in a glass and poured a nightcap. Chester always looked out of place in the girl's house. The house wasn't worth anything. It was the land that was valuable. The girl went outside, calling, past the empty pen, calling, down to the bay, seeing the lights of the better houses along the seawall. A neighbor had called the sheriff's department, and the lights from the deputy's car shone on the ground on the dark dog. A buzzer sounded in the beach house. Chester had had the whole house wired. In the week he had owned it, he had put in central air conditioning, replaced all the windows with one-way glass, and installed an elaborate infrared alarm system. The buzzer, however, was just a local signal. It stopped. It had been just the door opening, just Chester coming home. Chester activated the total system when they were out or when they were sleeping. The girl thought of invisible frequencies monitoring undisturbed air. The girl found offensive the notion she could be spared pain, humiliation, or loss by microwaves. She contemplated for a moment the desire Chester had for a complete home security system. There wasn't anything in the house worth stealing. Chester was protecting space. For a moment, the girl found offensive the touch of Chester's hand on her hair. "Why aren't you dressed?" he asked. The girl looked at him and then down at herself, at the thin t-shirt and hibiscus-flowered shorts. "I'm getting too old to wear this shit," the girl thought. The porch was cooling down fast in the twilight. She shivered and rubbed her arms. "Why?" the girl said. Chester sighed. "We're going out to dinner with the Tynans." "I don't want to go out to dinner with the Tynans," the girl said. Chester put his hands in his pockets. "You've got to snap out of this," he said. "I'm flying," the girl says. "I have flown." She thought of the shepherd leaping, the lightness. He had escaped from her. She hadn't gotten any place. "I've been very sympathetic," Chester said. "I've consoled you the best I can." "There is no consolation," the girl said. "There is no recovery. There is no happy ending." "We're the happy ending," Chester said. "Give us a break." The sky was red, the water a dull silver. "I can't bear to see the Tynans again," the girl said. "I can't bear to go to another restaurant and see the sneeze guard over the salad bar." "Don't scream at me, darling. Doesn't any of that stuff you take ever calm you down? I'm not the dog that you can scream at." What? The girl said. Chester sat down on the glider. He put his hand on her knee. I love you, he said. I think you're wonderful, but I think a little self-knowledge, a little realism is in order here. You would stand and scream at that dog, darling. The girl looked at his hand, patting her knee. It seemed an impossibly large, ruddy hand. I wasn't screaming, she said. The dog had a famous trick. The girl would ask, Do you love me? And he would leap up, all fours, into her arms. Everyone had been amazed. The night it happened, you looked at the screen and you said you'd kill him when he got back. The girl stared at the hand stroking and rubbing her knee. She felt numb. I never said that. It was a justifiable annoyance, darling. You must have repaired that screen half a dozen times. He was becoming a discipline problem. He was adopting ways that made people feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable, the girl said. She stood up. The hand dropped away. We cannot change any of this, Chester said. God knows if it were in my power, I would. I would do anything for you. You didn't stay with me that night. You didn't lie down beside me. The girl walked in a small, troubled circles around the room. I stayed for hours, darling, but nobody could sleep on that bed. The sheets were always sandy and covered with dog hairs. That's why I bought a house, for the beds. Chester smiled and reached out to her. She turned and walked through the house, opening the door, tripping the buzzer. Oh, you've got to stop this, Chester shouted. When she reached her own house, she went into the bedroom and lay down there. There was a yawning silence all around her, like an enormous hole. Silence was a thing entrusted to the animals, the girl thought. Many things that human words have harmed are restored again by the silence of animals. The girl lay on her side, turned onto her back. She thought of the bougainvillea, of the leaves turning into flowers over the shepherd's grave. She thought of the shepherd by her bed, against the wall, sleeping quietly, his faith in her at peace. There was a pop, a small explosion in her head that woke her. She lurched up, gasping, from a dream that the shepherd had died. And for an instant, she hovered between two dreams, twice deceived. She saw herself leaping, only to fall back. The moonlight spilled into the clearing. I did love you, didn't I? The girl said. She saw herself forever leaping, forever falling back. And didn't you love me? Oh. That was Taking Care and Shepherd from Taking Care by Joy Williams, or The Visiting Privilege by Joy Williams. It can be found in both of those collections. That's all I've really got tonight. I really love that story. I love those stories. I love that book. Sorry, Malcolm, I was thirsty. You're very welcome, my friend. If as you're proceeding through that collection, if you want to hear any of the other stories in there read, I happily will. I've already said I'd like to read Winter Chemistry another time. There's a lot of stories in there that I'd like to read. One of which I read last time, Rot. I really love that story. And there's just a bunch. There's so many. She's got so many great stories. I absolutely will. I'm about to go see Erica, and I think we're gonna watch the Golden Girls. But yeah, I'll definitely tell her you say hi. Happy to say she's feeling somewhat better. Still recovering, but anything is better than what it was. So hell yeah, man. I think there will be actually many more videos of me reading from Joy Williams. Um, definitely. Uh, Diane Williams too. Uh, and yeah, like I said, next week I'll probably be reading from the new edition of Noon, so you'll get some probably some Christine Scott, probably some Lucy Elvin, more Nathan Dragon, Catherine Scanlon, along with some others, I'm sure. But yeah, that's all I really got tonight. Thanks for being here, Malcolm. Thanks everybody who popped in. These are always fun, and reading Joy Williams is always a joy. So it's all I could have asked for, really. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Uh, I'll see y'all at the next one of these. In the meantime, take care. Have a good night, y'all. Bye.